Hey yo, what's up people? It's your boy 4K back again. My real name is Ongwae and welcome back to the channel. And Aki, naomba tafadhali pardon my camera. I'm just using an Infinix smartphone. If you care enough, link in the description down below. You can donate something so that I'll be able to get a more better equipment in order to have this kind of discussions. So basically, today we are going to talk about something which has never been talked in Kenya, and I think the youth or maybe the young people, the Gen Zs, are either avoiding it directly or they haven't really dealt it in intimately in order to understand what the fuck is really going on in Kenya and where and why we are where we are today. I'm a 22 years old man. I'm a researcher. I'm a political scientist, and I'm a very curious person in order to understanding the shifting world dynamics. Today, we are standing on the edge of a cliff. It is 2026, and the clock is ticking down to August 2027. To the outside world, 2027 is just another election year in Kenya. But if you try and look very closely, you can actually connect the dots. You realize that 2027 is not just another election year, it is a collision. It is just a storm where history, trauma, the texts of violence, I didn't want to mention this, but I think it's something that I have to mention. The tech surveillance and global superpowers are crashing into a deeply fractured society. Today we are going to connect these dots. We are going to look at the silent war between the young and the old. We are going to ask very uncomfortable questions. What happened to the hustler hype? What exactly does Israel want with Kenya? How does this new digital ID fit into the global chessboard of AI and shifting governments? In order to understand where Kenya is going in 2027, we first have to remember what we are forgetting. In every generation in Kenya has a trauma. It doesn't talk about it. This trauma is never talked about. Let's say in 1963, we traded the chains of colonialism for the promise of independence, only to realize the new masters looked like us. Do you understand what I'm talking about? Power was not given away. They just started to control people indirectly. In 1982, a failed couple attempt broad suffocation era of silence and paranoia. But the trauma still haunts Kenya. It still haunts the Kenyan souls. And one we desperately try to forget is in 2007-2008, when the political elite drew lines into the sand, neighbor turned against neighbor, and the country bled. We swore never again. We wrote a shiny new constitution in 2010 to protect ourselves from our own leaders because they went rogue. They got power drunk. But trauma doesn't just disappear; it mutates. I want to fast forward to today, in 2026. In April, I'm making this video in April. The trauma isn't just about ethnic anymore. It is economic. It is the trauma of 2024 Gen Z protests, where young, educated and desperate Kenyans took to the streets, choking on tear gas and demanding accountability, only to be met with police brutality. And this is where the generational fracture happens. You see, right now in Kenya, is two different countries living in the same borders. The old guard and the boomers and the Gen X. These were raised on pontage. To them, politics is just about mtu wetu syndrome. Our person, si ni mtu wetu, ametoka kwetu, ni mtu wa mulima. You vote for your tribe to secure resources. But the youth, the Gen Zs and the millennials, they don't care about the village kingpin. They are digitally native, globally connected and financially suffocating. They look at the leaders and see a system that taxes their survival to pay off debts they didn't borrow. Which brings us to the man at the center of it all, William Ruto. Is he worth the hype? Is he worth the hype? In 2022, Ruto pulled off a political masterclass. He bypassed the tribal map and ran on the hustler nation narrative. The poor versus the dynasties. The Uhuru dynasties, no, these people. It was brilliant. It gave millions of hope. But the reality of the governing crashed into the hype. Once in power, Ruto faced a mountain of debt accumulated during the Uhuru era. To appease the IMF and World Bank, taxes skyrocketed. The cost of living crashed the very hustlers who voted for him on the global stage. Ruto is a superstar, you know that already. He traveled all over the country, all over the nation, all over the globe, I don't know, championing the climate change and Pan-Africanism. But at home, he faces deeply disillusioned youth who feel betrayed by the hype. While the citizens are distracted by the cost of dread, a quiet, invisible net is being cast over the entire country. Do you remember the Huduma number? The billion-shilling digital ID project that was shrouded in controversy. Well, it didn't die. It just rebranded. Welcome to the Maisha number. Under the current government, Kenya is transitioning into a fully digitized surveillance state. Maisha number assigns a 14-digit unique personal identifier, the UPI, to every Kenya at birth. It is already working. It was officially announced on September 2023 by His Honorable William Ruto. It will track your education, your health insurance, your KRA taxes, your business, and eventually, it becomes your death certificate. The government says it is a streamline of services and to stop corruption. And maybe it is. You never know what can be happened, because if there's a good thing, there's a bad thing, and there's a bad thing, there's a good thing in it. But in a world where AI is taking over, data is the ultimate weapon. The sole data. You remember that? Turn your entire existence to a digitized digital grid means your state can turn your access to life on and off at a light of a switch. Kenya is positioning itself as the Silicon Savannah and integrating its citizens into the global digital economy. But why is the world so interested in digitizing and partnering with Kenya? Where does Kenya fit into today's power dynamics? To understand 2027, we have to look outside of Africa. In May 2024, the United States designated Kenya as a major non-NATO ally, the first in the sub-Saharan Africa. Why? Because the US is terrified of China and Russia taking over Africa. Washington needs an anchor, a stable democracy in a volatile region. But Kenya is playing a dangerous game of geopolitical chess. Ruto smiles with Biden in Washington and then flies to Beijing to declare that the current global order is broken, causing up to China for infrastructure deals. And then there is Israel. I don't want to mention it. People often ask, does Israel want? What does really Israel want with Kenya? But they don't have the answers. The relationship goes back decades. Most famously to the 1976, when Kenya quietly allowed Israel commandos to use Nairobi as a base to rescue hostages in the Entebbe, Uganda. Today, the alliance is called hard and strategic. Israel views East Africa, specifically Kenya, as its outer security perimeter. Israel isn't just here to sell drip irrigation for agriculture. Kenya is Israel's intelligence frontline in Africa. By partnering with Kenya on cybersecurity, counterterrorism, and advanced military tech, Israel creates a buffer zone against the radical networks in the Horn of Africa and the Red Sea. In return, Israel wants diplomatic loyalty, like favorable votes at the United Nations, and a gateway into the rest of the African continent. Kenya is no longer just a developing nation. It is a priced chess piece in a war between the West and the East and the Middle East. So, What is the storm that is coming in 2027? In 2027, all these dots connect. You will have an election where AI and deepfakes will be used to manipulate the masses like never before, like never seen before. You will have a government armed with the vast data on Maisha number, capable of micro-targeting and tracking its population. You will have global superpowers like the US, China, and Israel quietly pulling strings and ensuring whoever wins the State House protects their geopolitical interest in the Red Sea and the East Africa. But on the ground, you will have millions of young, fearless, trauma-fatigued Kenyans who no longer care about the tribe. They care about survival. The 2027 election won't just be a choice between politicians. It will be a street test of the Kenyan soul. Will the old guard use digital control and ethnic fear to maintain their grip? Or will the youth organize a leaderless revolution into the ballot box reality? We are forgetting that peace without justice is just a silent war. The world is watching Kenya because it is the Silicon Savannah. If the Silicon Savannah can figure out how to balance high-tech governance, international superpowers, and explosive demands of the desperate youth, it will relight the blueprint of the future of the world itself. If it fails, the storm will crush everything away. So, the storm is coming, but the question is, are the old people and are the youth in Kenya ready for it?